that we have so many things that you could be talking about and community projects you've been involved in, volunteered in. There's no way we could talk about them all in one episode.
And the purpose of your interview is?
So today's purpose of the interview is, you are living the dream that many of my coworkers and patients tell me that they have. And so the dream is a dream of servitude. And I'd like you to really talk about the many layers of servitude. My brother has a saying, doing spreadsheets for the greater glory of God. And I know there's been a lot of that. So I want you to talk about, if you could, the Raven Rocks project.
Okay, sure. Which is central because...
Yes. And I'm going to try to go on some kind of social media while you're talking. Okay. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, the Raven Rock story is one of those writing projects. And it's, I whittle away because it's very unfinished, of course. And being one of the founders, and now looking back.
Founders and residents.
Yes.
And inspirational figures, I would say. It would not have happened were it not for you, although you certainly didn't do it alone.
I was 25 when we started, and there were 19 of us.
And were you a teacher at Olney Friends at the time?
I was a teacher in North Carolina at an alternative junior high boarding school.
Yes. Tell me about this school.
Arthur Morgan School in the mountains, western North Carolina. Mary and I were house parents in a cabin for 6 girls, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders.
So you two had been married for how long?
2 years.
Okay. And you took a job immediately in a...
Well, we got married in August up on the mountainside, San Francisco Peaks, outdoors in Arizona.
Oh, San Francisco Peaks in Arizona, which is Mary's family.
Right. And I was working there that summer on a hotshot crew for the Forest Service, firefighting. And she was working away for the National Park Service. I lived with her parents, and I'd see her on the weekends when she came home to visit.
Yeah, very normal story.
Yeah.
Very Jack and Diane. So the two of you destined for a different pace of life, I would say. You were destined for a different pace of life from the beginning.
Yeah, and that started with my bicycle journey and with my rural Quaker upbringing.
Which you're writing a book about your bicycle journey. You do talks on it, and I will absolutely be interviewing you about that later. Go on.
Yeah, and so now I'm 80, and I'm in a position of reflecting a lot on where I've been and what I've been involved in and how doors have opened along the way.
Mm-hmm.
My third project, which may or may not ever be written, I don't know, is my autobiography, and I think the title will be As Ways Open.
As Ways Open.
And that's a Quaker saying that I grew up with.
That sounds like the AA saying, the easier, softer way, which is often the advice of my spiritual teachers, is what if there was an easier way to do what you're doing right now?
Well, my perspective is often all of us are always kind of searching for something, I think. I mean, that's my experience. You're doing something, you're in the middle of it. It's very focusing, it's very purposeful. But what's beyond it? Why are you doing it, for one thing? And what's beyond it, and what do you hope for, et cetera, et cetera. And as you're in that energetic focus, you get bumped, or you run into people who say, would you, could you, have you thought of da 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 da? And this door opens
It becomes like water. It's self-leveling, and the way out is going to make itself known. and you
Yes.
can go with it
Right.
instead of fighting that current and saying, no, it must be the way that I think it's going to be.
And I could have helped Bruce. Sorry.
I thought it was going to be good for him.
I had a long discussion with a couple of counselors in Yellow Springs,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about energy flow,
Oh,
the flow
yes.
that you get into, that then keeps you moving, as opposed to looking for the flow. If you're in it, you may not know you're in it, but it does. It moves you along. And I reflect a lot now, given at this point. But so I grew up in a family of 7, the middle child, 5 sisters. And as an adolescent, in fact, I was just listening to a discussion this morning from a neuroscientist
Ooh,
talking about self-identity, how we identify ourselves.
yeah,
What's the process?
yeah.
What are the influences? And he was pointing out that adolescence is a key moment when you're moving from childhood awe and total curiosity into shaping, deciding, determining some sort of sense of who you think you might want to be as an adult. And there are all these influences, including all the things that come flying.
Oh, it's an enchanting place here.
Yeah. And my memory of my adolescence is being interested in things that were slightly off of conventional. For one thing, I went to public school through 8th grade, but then it was the Quaker boarding school.
Which is a whole person education. They develop the person.
Absolutely. And Mary and I taught there right out of college, and then we went on to North Carolina to teach.
And that's where you came up with this idea.
Well, the Raven Rock seed was planted at Olney Friends School. A group of us stayed in touch, faculty and students. And
it was faculty and students who already had conversations because of the Olney experience.
Right.
You had conversations about purpose and life and land and conservancy.
Philosophy, ideology.
Where you said, let's be in touch and maybe something will work out.
We'd like to do something a little different. It was the 60s. And we were concerned that a lot of things were happening that we didn't want to participate in, didn't approve of. The Vietnam War, environmentalism was just emerging, and we were mostly farm kids, rural kids who really took to environmentalism and the ideas. And we said, well, and our school experience had been really compelling, important, and valuable. We thought we could improve upon it maybe.
Ooh.
By getting together and doing something as young adults with mentors. And we were we'd grown up in conservative Quakerism, which was this interesting mix of strict Christian conservatism and social activism, liberal social activism. And
the founders of the Underground Railroad, right? Or the
Absolutely.
Allies. I can't say the founders, but the allies.
Yeah, the participants.
The participants.
And for a number of us, I mean, my generation, in fact, pretty much left conservative Quakerism because it was very heavy. A lot of the ministry that came out of those from the elders was thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. It was pretty heavy.
That's shaping, that's not developing.
Right. At the same time, it was, Christian love and service and peace and et cetera, et cetera. So we were getting this kind of,
Discordance.
yeah. And the early Quakerism went off, conservative Quakerism went off on this tangent. No music, no dancing, no worldly. I mean, it was almost, I've been asked how we were different from the Amish.
Yeah.
Because the conservative dress and practice, etc.
And the oatmeal, of course.
Yeah, the image. Anyway, so we thought, okay, we're like-minded, we're energetic, ideological. Let's do something a little different and a little better. And what are we going to do and where? Let's not do it here. Let's find a piece of land someplace. We didn't have any money. I mean, we were young. I had worked my way through college, and we weren't all even college graduates.
You were living in rural, mountainous North Carolina, teaching at an alternative school, and you didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
Wild. Like I said, this
And-
is the dream.
And
So you made yourself ready.
and loving it, because I was backpacking. I was working outdoors with the kids. I was teaching a core. I had a history degree. I was teaching a core class, wide-ranging core class about history and culture and anthropology, and you know, it was a boarding school. So just like my experience, the kids and the adults did everything together:
Mhm.
cooking meals, gardening, social activities, etc., etc. Anyway, one of my memories from growing up was that my parents had come of age during the Depression, so they knew what poor was,
Mm.
and they knew what frugality was, and that's the way we lived. But we were never really poor. Didn't have much money ever.
Modest.
Very modest, but gosh,
Columbiana County.
Columbiana County. We had a peach orchard, and we sold our peach crop at the end of every summer and got new school clothes.
Mm.
And we were very much involved in harvesting, selling. We had a roadside stand. We were never without,
Hmm.
but a lot of the kids I went to school with, a number of them, I would say, were more privileged with stuff, materialism.
Noticeable to
Yeah,
you.
noticeable. And so my sense was we were poor. And I as a young child, I'd say, I don't, in my life, I don't want to be poor.
Same.
I mean, typical, kind of typical. But at the
Mm.
same time, I didn't want to be conventional. And I lost track of the number of times that my mother would say, you just want to be different, don't you? I didn't see myself as that different, but
I think I am different, and I can't help but be myself.
Right.
If you're going to wait for me to be normal, you'll be waiting a long time.
But my parents were giving me, I mean, we all had piano lessons, and conservative Quakerism had ruled out music.
Tis a gift to be simple. Tis a gift to be free. That must not be conservative Quakerism. Hmm?
Well, it was this real mix.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother wanted us to not be caught up in that. And so she was urging us to be.
So
to
mom
have more
had
opportunity.
flexible thinking.
She did. And she was a very accomplished. I mean, we had all the food we could grow and produce and can and keep, and we were always giving away.
That it's such a joy when you're canning.
Yeah, surplus, and you know, so there were mostly 5 of us plus my parents as growing up, but then my 2 other sisters came on later. But always big group around the table, and visitors, and Sunday after meeting there'd usually be somebody coming home with us for dinner, etc., etc. So I had this sense that we couldn't afford to buy much, but I realized that we had this abundance that, particularly as I through my adulthood, this abundance that a lot of people don't, in terms of a community, in terms of the values of the relationships, relatives, family, lots of support, and this sense of the value of a community.
Yeah, I always say I'm wealthy in all the ways money can't buy.
Absolutely, and I always have been, and I've never been without whatever. I mean, that's part of the sense of the way opening was kind of wanting something, but maybe not, and putting it on the shelf, and all of a sudden I'd be past it.
Yeah. So you're in the 1960s and you're thinking, I want to consider this. And you have a lot of jobs that prepare you for the skills you will need for stewardship later. Are you aware of that at the time?
Kind of yes and no. Stepping into Raven Rocks with no money, most of us had grown up rural. I had grown up using hand tools all my life. They were natural. You'd pick it up and I knew what to do with it. And we got this, this opportunity came up, 843 acres, beautiful property, mostly a lot of it worn out farmland, run down buildings. We went to work fixing up barns, fixing up houses with limited resources. But you just kind of do with what you've got. And because we were all of this frugal, simplistic background, financially, I was treasurer until 2 years ago. We managed our financial resources well. That was part of our Quaker.
And so you had a lot of common ground to start with around financial matters with this group of 17 people who said, we want to go in on this.
Right.
Right. And so with a shared culture, shared skills, shared education.
Shared skills, but a variety of skills too.
Yes.
And aptitudes.
Aptitudes.
So we had a couple people, one of my teachers was a phenomenal self-taught design engineer and draftsman.
That helps have that in your arrow and your quiver.
And
how did you meet Mac?
Mac Wells, well, we were interested. We were salvaging these old buildings, but the mother of one of the teachers was a retired woman. Her husband had died. They had a business in Iowa, a hatchery, chicken hatchery, which they had sold. She wanted to come and finish out her years living at Raven Rocks.
Which is the 843 acres.
Yes.
Which has how many houses on it currently?
5.
5 houses.
When we got it, there were 3, and one was pretty habitable, one was okay habitable, and one was not habitable.
And I have been a suicide hotline worker, so I want to clarify that this is not a religious cult and there is no free love or polyamory going on, which I think has helped contribute to its success. 50 years later, we're still building.
Right. So she said, I'd like to live there. I've got some savings. If you'll build the home, I can finance it, and it'll be there for generations to come.
This is the retired chicken hatchery maven.
Yes.
Yes.
Who was supportive, not financially, but supportive of her son and us getting involved. She also was an avid reader, and she subscribed to Organic Gardening magazine.
Oh, wow.
And that was In the 60s, that was, I mean, there weren't that many people.
There was no YouTube videos on how to start your own homestead. If you
No.
didn't know how to grow it, you had to find
And
someone
she
who
was
knew
a-
how to grow it.
She was a farm girl. Anyway, she read this article about this architect who was an earth-sheltered architect. And she was wanting to help build a house at Raven Rock so she could live there. And she said, maybe we ought to get in touch with this guy. So she and her son wrote to Malcolm Wells, who had been, until very recently at that time, a tremendously successful architect. Mid-career, had 15 associates working under him, had designed major commercial buildings, and he had this epiphany. He said, our buildings are ruining the earth. All these hard surfaces, disrupting all the water courses, the natural transpiration processes.
Without salinity, we have real bad weather. It's that simple.
So he laid off all these associates, and he said, I'm starting over. He was mid-career, had 4 children and a wife. And I mean, this was huge. He's also a gifted artist. And he started researching and designing, saying, we've got to build buildings that retain nature as the face of the sky, to the sky. So earth sheltering. And an article about him was in organic gardening. So we invited him to come. He visited. We formed this profit corporation. We weren't going to be a charitable, okay, we're going around begging money to do this. We were saying, we're going to do it. We'll be tax-paying citizens. We formed a corporation. Each of us had to pay $250 for a share and to be part owners. And in 1970, fall of 1970, well, January of 1971, Malcolm Wells had been in correspondence and said, well, you know, I'm interested in helping you all out here. Love to design a building. I need to come and see the site. He lived in New Jersey. January, he came on his break. So there we are on New Year's Day. And I've got a slide of us walking down the trail into Raven Rocks.
Was it icy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It was winter. And we were all dressed up in winter clothes. And he was going,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to design a building that fits into this landscape.
So where Locust Hill is now?
Well, that's actually the second design.
So where your home is, was the first design?
No. The first one was out in a field, and it because of the shape of the hill, it faced the east. And some of our group were pretty remarkable researchers, and there never was a final answer until you could do more exploration. Well, solar energy was just beginning to be acknowledged and promoted. And Malcolm Wells was an architect and designer, but he was not a technological, HVAC and energy person. He was an artist. So he had this Frank Lloyd Wright influence, and he was seeing how these buildings could fit in with natural materials and fit into the landscape, and then have plants incorporated, etc., earth cover. So the first design faced east, didn't have any insulation necessarily, and was begun, and dug a hole and started, and then learned that, hey, if this building actually faced south and had a fair amount of glass on the south side, you could get passive solar energy. And the more we learned, the more we thought, the opportunity here is to build a building for Mother Stetzel that demonstrated a more environmentally friendly, less energy intense use, fossil fuels particularly. And in order to do it, we needed to move it to a different site for two reasons. Low battery. For two reasons. One is that first site was not very publicly accessible, and the other was that it didn't have a good solar aperture.
Oh.
So in 1975, a new excavation was begun where Locust Hill is now.
Hold on. So the first hole was dug. We moved to Locust Hill. What happened to the first site?
It was reclaimed.
Reclaimed.
It was in a field where we grew Christmas trees. So it was reclaimed, and
this was an integral
developed.
part of being able to afford the payments on the property, even though you had, because let's talk about this sweetheart deal for 874 acres.
847, $100,000, $110 an acre.
$110 an acre, which was a knowing bargain at the time, and the farmer wanted to sell to you. So how did you form a relationship with this farmer?
Well, he was, he knew that for several generations, students in Olney Friends School annually hiked and camped, hiked out to Raven Rocks, camped overnight, and hiked back. I did it as a student. My father did it as a student, 15 miles. Hike out, a truck would haul sleeping bags and beans and hot dogs. And
to where, from here, from Olney?
From Barnesville.
Oh my goodness, I drive it and I'm like, oh, wow, I made it out in the wilderness. That was several days?
Every spring.
3 days out, probably?
No.
1 day?
Yeah, and it would take.
This is the Ohio Valley. There's like outrageous elevation here. For anyone who thinks this is normal, Rich is 80 and will be biking at least 20 miles later today. Ohio Valley.
So yeah, it was a tradition that developed. And Raven Rocks was this local park place, always privately owned, Bellsville, but those deep ravines, Raven Rocks, sometimes called Ravine Rocks, was a place that people visited and go picnicking. And this farmer who was had big ideas. He was a dairy farmer, but he had bought up a bunch of properties, had been working with the coal companies. So he had assembled a number of parcels to create this 847 acre block. He was going to develop it as a commercial recreation area and retire from dairy farming. His family was not supportive. He borrowed money and wasn't generating the income. And he came to Olney Friends School and he said, I need to get out of debt. I know that you all really appreciate Raven Rocks. Won't you buy it from me?
Because he knew you would be stewards the way that he eventually wanted to. Yeah.
And he said, I have an offer from the coal company, $130,000. I need $100,000 to get out of debt. If you can come up with $100,000, I'll sell it to you, please.
So this group of 25 at that point, how many people were interested in the $250 share?
There was 19 of us.
19.
And we were looking at land in Arkansas and Missouri. You know, we were saying, let's find some land that we could afford to do a project. This comes up. Well, we know it. It's in our backyard. Not at the time, we were scattered. We had left and were scattered. Several of us in North Carolina, several in Virginia. Mrs. Stetzel and her son and a couple others were in Kansas City, Missouri.
Mac is in Scotland. No, Mac's in New Jersey.
Mac is in New Jersey. He's not a member, but the guy I rode my bicycle across the country and back with was doing chiropractic training in Kansas City. Anyway, so we were spread out, but we had stayed in touch, letter writing, and we'd get in touch. We'd meet on a weekend occasionally just to talk ideas, talk about things we were reading, et cetera, et cetera. So this pops up and we say, oh, whoa. And we kind of waited to see if anybody else, any other alums would pick up on the idea. And there was a couple from Columbus who said, maybe we could assemble some friends and develop a housing project out there. They never got, fortunately, they never got enough together to do it. And we met there a couple times and had a couple of supporters who weren't part of our group who were saying, you really ought to consider this. This would be a good place, da 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 da. And we had, in August of 1970, we all got together there and had a Quaker meeting at the property. Did a little hayride, and then sat down and said, okay, what's right? What should we do here or not do? Should we take this on or not? And at the end of the meeting...
And a Quaker meeting is quiet reflection.
Quiet reflection.
For how long?
Basically an hour.
Some good meditative silence.
Right.
Because prayer is asking and then meditating is listening.
Right.
So we center ourselves with the question, what's good and right?
Should we do this? Is this right for us? You know, and not, almost no discussion at that point, just sitting together. And it happened to be that Mary and I were not there for that meeting because I was best man in a wedding for a friend from college in Cincinnati.
Covenants are special. Can't skip them.
So, but the group said, yes, let's do it. So then, then it was, okay, what's it going to take? How are we going to do it? Who's doing this? What? One couple of the 19 were working at Olney Friends School. And so they were the on-site folks. They worked with a local attorney to develop to set us up as a corporation. We figured out what it would take. We went to production credit and said, okay, we need $100,000 to buy this property. Would you take on a mortgage? Well, we need a down payment. These are the terms and the rates, 9% interest.
Are they still in business? I would like a 9%
production credit
interest. Yes.
9% is
less than the mob.
Less than the mob, but for mortgage rates, yeah.
At the time, that was pretty high.
It was normal.
Yeah.
8 to 9% was normal at the
in
time.
1970.
Yeah, and it got higher before it got lower. Anyway, well, we needed a minimum of $15,000 as a down payment. We didn't have it either, of course. Some people were still in school or whatever. I think I was making $3,000 a year as a
I was
teacher.
making even less in 1970.
Anyway, we said, okay, what can we each chip in every month from our current incomes, first of all? No pressure, just
objective financial plan you can commit to.
Yeah. And Mary and I said we can do $30 a month. A lot of other people did too, because the mortgage payment was going to be like $360 or something. Anyway, how are we going to get the down payment? Well, because we were part of this Olney Friends School family of alums and relatives, and a school that was founded in 1837 and that had every alum knew what Raven Rocks was. We wrote a letter.
Join your alumni association.
we wrote a letter. We went around in a circle asking, okay, who do you think? Who do you think? Who do you think? It may have been 30 letters. I don't remember the exact number, to people who we thought would be interested and supportive, and who would give us a low or no interest loan. We were asking for loans, not for gifts, not for donations. And we would do promissory notes. So when do you want it to be, what kind of a term can you lend us? And we got together $15,000.
Through communal loans from multiple sources.
Yes, family and friends.
Family and friends. The very definition of grassroots. We're passing the hat for shekels and we will pay you back.
And we'd write out promissory notes. This one is 4 years at 3%. This one is 6 years, don't want any interest. We assembled all these. Anyway, we got together $15,000 for the down payment, got a mortgage with production credit. Basically, it was a land contract with the owner who had a mortgage with production credit, so we took it on. And we started.
And did you plant the Christmas trees?
He had planted big ideas.
Yeah.
He had planted 44,000 Scotch pine seedlings.
The angel Gabriel came to him in a dream and said, Rich and Mary are going to need these trees someday.
And we knew they were, we saw them, they were like that.
Yeah.
And he said,
OMG, he was planting trees for future shade. Okay, go on.
He said, when those are mature, you can wholesale them. You just cut them off, take them down to Bel Air, Bridgeport, or whatever, and you can get $5 a tree.
So he didn't know what he was doing either.
No.
He had a big dream and no plan.
He had a big dream. And he figured Christmas trees, just let them grow, cut them down, $5 a tree. So we saw those and said, maybe if we husbanded and took care of them, we could pay off half the mortgage. So that was a possibility. We didn't know how we're going to earn it, but that was one.
That's a resource.
Yeah.
We're identifying our resources.
Right. We've got
inputs, outcomes. What are the outputs to get to the outcomes?
And at the time, the county agent working for Soil and Water, Ohio State Extension, was a Christmas tree farmer.
This is a formal source of power and an informal source of power, sir.
And so we said, hey, we've got all these Scotch pine trees. Can you tell us what we need to do to bring them to harvest and maximize the income as Christmas tree farmers?
So just real quick, Rural Extension Service. Right now, I would call the Ohio State University because that's who our Rural Extension Service is through. But anywhere in the U.S., you could Google Rural Extension Service for my county, and this is a free service that someone will come out from the state and say, here's some land management things you might be aware of. Here's some good stuff that's going on. Here's some problems.
He was the county agent.
Yeah.
That was his job.
Yeah.
And he was also a Christmas tree farmer. I think the Christmas tree farmer was a sidelight then, but it became a major. He was a big wholesaler eventually. But he said, well, he gave us.
This is the way.
He gave us the basics.
Yeah.
He came, and we all came together on a weekend. He said, yeah, I can come out there then. And it's what you need to do. You need to either mow or spray to keep the grass down. And then every year, these trees have to be trimmed. And this is what you need to do with Scotch pines. You need to trim the leader and the buds, and the timing is critical. And he gave us a bunch of handouts and said, pointed out what tools, little hand pruners and shears, and said, I'm glad to, be helpful.
So this is just a kind person going above and beyond. This was not part of the county agent service.
No, this was
is
his
also,
job.
Okay.
It's his job.
Because the rural extension service came out and they've emailed me some things on bat boxes and the apiary clubs in the area.
And you know, he offered to when we were going to be pruning, he offered to come and consult. So we listened and we said, oh, we need to mow this field. We need some equipment. We did some investigation. We invested in a walk-behind, open-bladed rotary mower, something like $700, I forget, so that we could mow. And we said, no, we're not using chemicals, we're not using herbicides. So we'll mow.
And this is hand-powered, human-powered.
Human-powered, yeah. So we got the basics and we started. And for the first 2 years, the one couple here in Barnesville kind of would oversee, keep tabs on the property, and we'd contribute money and the mortgage payments were being made, and we'd get together 2, 3, 4 times a year for major weekend work times. Driving, for us, it was drive 8 hours, often afternoon and evening, and come and camp. We'd all camp together, work together, meet, business, you know, what are we going to do, how are we doing. We did that for 2 years, and at the end of, in 1972, Mary and I from North Carolina, John and Wanda Rockwell, and 2 others from Virginia, moved back to Barnesville so that we could be close, because it was crazy. If we're going to do this, we need to be close.
Yeah.
If we're going to take care of things, we need to be where we can do it. Can't just do it on 3 weekends a year.
And you need to continue making friends, as I'm doing now, for your retirement over the course of your lifetime.
So in 72, a bunch of us moved, and at the same time, over a period of a few years, the group boiled down to about 12 who could and would and wanted to really commit. Others said, well, my career is, I need to get my master's, we're starting a family, job, I can't commit. I really support, but.
That's not what my life is now.
It whittled down.
Yeah.
And we learned, part of our whole concept from the outset was, what can we do together that's both a service to the planet and is going to be a deep, real learning experience for us. Where
you challenge yourself to continue to grow as a person.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, lifelong learning. What are the circumstances that will help us do that the best?
Yeah. And you have to embrace humility. And humility isn't false humility. It's embracing being bad at things and continuing to be like bad as you age and be like, sorry,
learning by
something new.
Learning by doing.
Yeah.
And often you make some mistakes, or if you change course a bit because you're learning. The Christmas tree business is a unique farming enterprise.
As a farmer, it was different than other farming you were used to.
Absolutely. So we were observing, we were marketing, and we said, we've got to sell these retail because the income is 50% higher when you can retail compared to just wholesaling them, and we need to maximize the income. So we, over the first few years, our first harvest was 300 trees. And
you say like, well, it wasn't big. And I think 300, I would have been so proud of myself if I had sold 100 the first year.
Well, we cut them, hand tied them, baled them, and had a a truck that Ted found, a stake truck that Ted found that we bought cheaply, and transported them to Virginia, where people could sell them who were still living there. And
So that was one of your partners had a parking lot they were renting. How did they do that?
They lived there, and they arranged at a gas station to sell on the corner, and
and then paid taxes.
Yeah. So that was the first harvest, and they weren't great looking trees, but they were green and they were okay. Anyway, we learned, and we said, this looks like it could be pretty promising if, and we had this glut of huge number of trees that had to be moved through 8 years of growth at a minimum, 8 to 10 to really get a quality 6-foot average pine Christmas tree with annual shearing, and shearing with a knife on the sides as they got bigger, and shearing the tops to establish the leader that would define the growth and the shape of the tree. And because we were working together, and with hand tools, you could talk as you walked through the fields and discuss, what are you seeing, how are we doing? And then when we were selling them, those trees that we the ones that really sold, customers really wanted So we learned how to hold them in the field a little longer. So
You learned how to have feedback and ongoing communication to have a better product.
And they were dense. Customers didn't want to see the trunk. They wanted a nice shape, good color, and fresh trees. And we learned how to do all of that, and we were selling them pretty cheaply, and realized that we were probably underselling people who's made their living, other farmers who were making their living selling Christmas trees and paying for labor, and that wasn't fair, because we were donating our labor, and taking all that income and applying it to the mortgage and our corporate expenses.
So you said, this is not beneficial to all concerned, so we're going to change our pricing.
So we've developed,
which is a great way. For nonprofit people don't normally think that way.
I know.
They think frugal, tidy, doing the most, serving, sweat equity. But if you're going to run a business, it has to be a business that other people can run if you're out sick, and other people are not going to donate this kind of labor.
So we developed a pricing method that ideally priced according to quality. And we said, we need inexpensive trees, cheap trees for people who don't want to pay a lot or who can't afford to. So we'd have a big range, and our expensive trees were much more expensive than normal. And our cheap trees were, they had flaws.
Yeah, but people like me, we make popcorn garland. It doesn't matter if you can see the trunk.
Right. Right. And some people said, well, I like Charlie Brown trees. I want that back there in the corner.
Yeah.
Anyway, so is evolutionary, and we realized we had to start planting every year. So when things were really, our biggest harvest was 8,000 trees.
How many workers?
Well, there were about 10 of us.
And at that point, you were not doing labor trafficking on yourselves. You were paying yourselves.
We weren't paying ourselves.
You were putting equity into the land.
We all had other occupations. Our income, we were living on teaching, or had developed the concrete business. So Mary and I were doing that. We didn't take vacations. Vacations were working at Raven Rocks.
So where the Christmas trees were, What is there now?
We had um, we had 60,000 trees in cultivation at all the time, 1,000 trees an acre. So we had scattered fields, in part because that meant it minimized diseases, and we didn't have to use sprays. And we joked about selling organic Christmas trees, and our customers liked to hear us say that. So we had fields all over the place that we maintained for Christmas trees.
Can I just say, I love that that's a joke to you. Like, I'm in the trees. What else
Yeah,
are they?
it was fun. Anyway, so we really developed this business model every spring. I mean, we'd get together January after harvest. Okay, we'd map out how many do we need to plant this year? What fields will they be in? So preparation was mowing, making sure they were all clear, ordering new seedlings. We planted, hand planting with dibbles every March and April. And then,
So you're maintaining all of these different plots.
right. And every year in the summer, we went over every field, clearing grass and shearing, pruning over a 6 weeks period for pines between when the buds grow and before they set.
Is there a notebook keeping track of all this every year? How do you not repeat the same one or keep track of what you're doing?
Well, we knew. I mean, each field had to be treated a little differently. We knew what order we needed to prune in order to get. We knew what fields were going to be harvested, and those got different pruning later than the younger trees earlier. We developed this whole system, and we just kind of tuned into it, and volunteered our time, evenings, weekends. For years, every year we would have what we called a work week, when people who got vacation time would take off and just prune trees at Raven Rocks.
And they would also camp.
Yeah.
I bet there were great pie iron recipes during those work weeks.
Wanda Rockwell didn't enjoy the manual labor so much, but she loved to cook and prepare meals, and she'd cook for us through the work week. So we'd go out and be working in the fields and come in, and she'd have the big spread for noon and evening.
So did you riddle in the evenings or tell stories, ghost stories? What was the wind down during the work week?
Wind down would be, it was hot today. But look, we really made good progress in that field. We're a little behind over here. We need to jump on that. We had two crews because
you were in a groove the whole week.
Yeah. And some of us could handle this. I mean, this is a pretty physical, and you have to start an hour or two.
That's my
shoulder and
I'm at
arm.
a 25-mile-an-hour cruise when I'm doing anything with a machete. Scythe. That one rests on the ground. It's not as bad.
You'd have to break your arms in, and so it was the men, several of us men with arms and enough energy and strength and interest to do the knifing, and others really focused on topping, which would be going through the fields before the knifing, setting that leader and the first whorl of